Monster Hunter, baby, this goes hard. I, I, I'm so bad. I can't believe I missed that. Why do I even bother? I just missed my attack. So, oh my god. Oh my god, we're so back. Monster Hunter is one of my favorite game franchises to this day. I'll do my best to explain why I like it and why the community might like some aspects of it too. It won't be an exact clean breakdown, so just get prepared for what might happen. Growing up, I was first introduced to Monster Hunter by being bought Monster Hunter Tri for the Wii way back in 2011, 2012, something like that. It was one of the first individual video game titles I've sunk hundreds of hours into. Now stay with me on this part, but there's an IGN interview with Aaron Paul. If you don't know his name, you probably know his face. I'm going to paraphrase two things he said because he mentioned him gaming at a young age and then gaming later on in his life. I felt like a kid again, and I didn't know a video game could make me feel like that. I can go on and on about how Monster Hunter makes me feel, but I'd rather back that up with the mechanics it introduces and maybe reinvents along the way that help reinforce this emotional state. I think a simple one to start off the bat was that a lot of the monsters just look cool as hell, alright? I've always loved the part breaking mechanic. I always loved the idea of chipping away at a monster, seeing it visually break down over time until finally it was done for. Monsters feel like real animals when you break their parts. Breaking parts is almost exposing a permanent weak spot on the monster for the rest of the fight. For example, breaking wings on a Rathalos has its struggle with flight time for the remainder of the fight. Monsters feel less like a hurdle just to get over and more like a real-life creature. Now, as a child, I didn't really know that breaking certain parts meant different rewards yielded, but I still loved the idea of visual storytelling with the monsters. Not solely relying on some invisible health bar, but seeing in real time that everything you're doing is making a difference little by little, and then it adds up. It really is a play it as you like game. Obviously, don't die to the monsters. Ah! Before I continue this video, I'd like to give a huge thank you to today's monster. Hey, you see what I did there? Giginox, keeping it real in the cave. The games have a specific language, and they never really switch up the language drastically. If you fought one monster in a previous game and they add it to a new one, it's probably going to be the same battle. Mechanics to adapt to, things like animation tells for monsters when they're about to charge up something really devastating, sound cues when they roar, seeing them puff little gusts of clouds out of their nose meaning they're enraged, which means that they have a little bit more arsenal of attacks than usual when they're tired. Hit stops, you know hit stops, dude? Failure is a time for reflection on you as a player and your weaknesses. And the thing that's fun is that the game doesn't need to be a power fantasy. It's kind of fun just to scramble around sometimes, have a little bit of a panic, even if you know what you're doing. It keeps the adrenaline pumping, quite frankly. Monsters in higher ranks just having the power to one-shot you. Making sure you don't roll or get hit by a monster when you're trying to deliver a herbivore egg and you're so close. Or maybe you just jump off that tiny little cliff, that little footing, the egg drops and you have to go all the way back and it's just ruined. It's over. And just it won't get better. It's just not gonna, it's never gonna get better. The older titles were made by fucking monsters. Okay, let me just put this into perspective for you. Just envision this, okay? You're on one of the older Monster Hunter titles, let's say like Freedom Unite. You have to collect 2 Rathian eggs, alright? Sounds pretty easy too. I can count that high. You realize you're given a pretty generous amount of time to deliver these eggs, so you're like, what gives? Then you realize that your movement speed is completely hindered by like fucking 78 million% when you're holding the egg. You can't dodge roll because the egg drops. You can't take any damage or else the egg drops. You can't fall like 1 foot off the ground because the egg will also drop. And when the egg drops, it crumbles, it shatters, right? You have to run back to the Rathian nest, pick up the egg, alright? Or a herbivore, it's different. Sprinting while holding the egg drained your stamina significantly. Now, as if it weren't bad enough, it's not just damage and falling and all this other stuff that can break the egg. It's if a monster roars and you're in its vicinity, you cover your ears, which makes you drop the fucking egg. It gets better as well. Rathians, however, are usually nowhere to be seen at their nest initially when you go to loot their eggs, so you think, oh, it's pretty safe. But some sick friend, I think, made it a mechanic or coded it in that when you pick up their egg from the nest, the Rathian just immediately drops whatever she's doing and flies over to you, follow you to sniff out the egg, to basically go after you relentlessly until you get it to that box safe and sound. on the other side of the map usually. Now in older Monster Hunter games, there was no such thing as semi-open world or open world really. There was zones, and you would load into each zone for about a couple seconds each time. This is really important because it just added to the amount of fucking stress, because monsters can follow you in between zones as well. So it would just make you anticipate when the monster will come from zone 2 to zone 3 to follow suit and try to shoot fireballs at you, to roar potentially, to just charge at you, ruin your life. I've met a decent amount of people who like Monster Hunter as a game. I haven't heard a single one praise gathering or fetch quests at all. Nobody calls it even a cozy getaway from hunting monsters, because it's actually just more stressful. The reason why this matters so much is that to people who don't play these games or haven't really experienced it, you could just say, oh, just don't do the fetch quest, just hunt monsters. I mean, it's the name of the game. Well, in the older titles at least, fetch quests and gathering quests were mandatory before fighting other monsters, or at least unlocking bigger and better monsters to fight. As far as I remember when playing World and Rise, fetch quests and gathering quests are strictly side quests or optional just to help out the village. You were getting jumped relentlessly by anything that was alive, not just herbivores, not just Rathians, it was fucking O-Block. Monster Hunter Rise and World, you are so liberated by the feeling of mobility when you're holding an egg, climbing with it, being able to fall from great heights, and even the wire bug mechanic whilst holding the egg. This shit would not fly in like 2 or 3. Don't chat to me! I think I've said my piece on eggs and fetch quests. Fetch quests were not as bad as egg quests. It was really tedious though. You just had to find like 10 to 20 rare mushrooms or herbs that just spawned in very specific parts of the map that they didn't list for. This rant about this one mechanic is so long, honestly. I didn't expect this. I'm probably going to timestamp this so you could just skip over it if you don't want to hear it. You know, there's some mechanics in a game where it's like you face these hardships and you just think to yourself, did I come out stronger? Or did I just come out more damaged from all of that? Anyway, on to the rest of the video. But I will admit, sometimes those double monster quests, sometimes the triple ones, even more. Sometimes the pair-ups are like nightmare blunt rotation. Like, what the hell are some of these monster pairings? Monsters by themselves aren't that bad, but together, certain pairings can just prove to be quite stressful and a little annoying. Yo, I'm getting knocked around! Aside from that, though, when you come back to these games after a while, you're getting a little rusty in the language, and you kind of have to remember how things worked. Dude, I hit the fucking parry, what do you mean? Oh! Seeing monsters from older titles you've played that might even be your favorite or fan favorites are just kind of really cozy to come back to. It's like saying hi to an old friend again. The combat with pretty much any weapon is really satisfying once you land a big combo that you've been trying for a while. There's so many mechanics that go into the game, not just with your player, but the monsters, the environment, everything, and it just gets more and more complex. We would honestly be here for hours of me just explaining each one, what they do. It's a lot to take in and learn, but it's kind of up to you, the player, to decide whether you want to roll with the punches or just give up. Some of the veterans of the game's franchise probably just feel insulted or kind of left out because of all the quality of life changes that the newer titles make. What the fuck? What is... Kids these days, they don't understand the annoyances of charm tables, of wise stones. They don't understand the struggle of underwater combat. I'm gonna be honest, most of the mechanics that I listed way back when in the video are a lot of the reasons why some people dislike the game. Some people don't like repetition. The games are also pretty independent, so there's no real connecting story besides the monsters that sometimes make cameos again. This might somewhat be annoying to people who wanted to continue a certain campaign from a different game. Not to mention, there's a handful of monsters that, quite frankly, just are disliked. Plesioth, Lunastra, maybe gimmicky kinds of fights like Gen Morin. A lot of these really just boil down, though, to hitboxes that are annoying, auras, AoE attacks that are constant, just spamming, and tedious all around. The average Joe playing Monster Hunter games most likely isn't going to look like one of those speedrunners that just kill a monster in under 4 minutes with a bow. Probably going to play a little bit clunkier, not care too much about how flashy it looks for the camera, and just kind of play at their own pace. And being a new player with no knowledge, this kind of is enforced. And for the sake of this game and your mental stability, it's really important to just focus on mechanics that you really wouldn't think of with any other game. You need to learn the manual on all the monsters, you need to know how they behave, their weaknesses for maximum efficiency, you need to learn how the weapons work, and it's just a very big pot of stuff mixed together. It's a constant battle for being better than the monster, and it just doesn't end once you get a certain set of gear. Devastating attacks are still in the end game, game, one-shot KOs, fainting, carding, whatever. I don't care. Rathalos in older titles was flying for the whole damn fight. I don't care. I'm glad that they shortened the air loop. Are the core emotional mechanics of this game that I've loved for many years being preserved correctly? I don't think people were exactly mad that they replaced paintball usage with mainly just scout flies, okay? Because who the f wants to use paintballs? What the fuck? Why did I try to parry that? Now, you could make the argument that paintballs do in fact help ground the game into what the title is, Monster Hunter. You're tagging a monster and you're following it. Scout flies, though, are a pretty interesting tweak because it still rewards you observing monsters and where they move to. Kind of reinforces the hunting fantasy just without needing to throw a pink ball at something. Force flex animations, I mean, positioning still matters greatly when you're taking it upon yourself to drink a potion. I think the core mechanics still stayed. There's still fear of getting hit. There's still that exhilarating feeling of chasing a monster that's almost gonna die. The emotions stayed, but they just present it differently now. In Monster Hunter games especially, expression should not replace consequences. A good example of what I mean is that weapons nowadays in the games, they're flashier and counterattack and all that good stuff, but you have to understand that you're still committing to long combo moves in order to dish out that huge amount of damage, and it's also punishing greed still. Monster Hunter franchise is not some magnum opus, oh my god, have my children. Even diehard fans still have grievances or annoyances about any of the titles. They probably have a whole handful they can list right off the bat from their favorite one. You can have borderline the best gear, the best decorations, just the whole shebang, and you still won't be able to fight a monster and win if you don't know the fundamentals of the weapon and how the monster behaves. The game doesn't even carry you, really, if you just don't know how to utilize what you're given and what you're crafting. Don't hate me for this example, okay? But I hope it really explains the point I'm trying to make. Somebody like Asmongold, who tried Monster Hunter World and Iceborne, somebody who's clowned on and memed on, trying Monster Hunter World and Iceborne 2 years ago, getting a slew of support and praise for playing the game, I think it says one or two things about the community and how supportive it can actually be. If somebody with a dead rat as an alarm clock, if somebody can play like a man in their 50s for 20 or 30 hours on stream, it just goes to show the amount of support that the community has, even for people who are potentially even deeply hated, but somebody who actually wants to try their hand at being a monster hunter. Backseaters that usually just try to control the way you play. Oh, you should really use flash pods. Hey, you should roll when he does that. So I did some rough calculations on the amount of time he streamed Monster Hunter World Iceborne up until this title, which says Tackle Changed My Life. He was rocking Greatsword the whole way through, and I did the math, and it was roughly 35 hours of VOD where he didn't know how to properly do tackle with the Greatsword, and he made it all the way to the early stages of Iceborne DLC doing that. At the same time, though, you neglect or ignore or potentially can't properly learn a mechanic, and then once you do get a grasp of it, it feels like such a satisfying weight off your shoulder. It unfortunately just comes with the territory of being a first-time Monster Hunter. You're not going to know everything right off the bat, and I guess it's better to learn it late than never. I remember 2017 or 2018, I saw a YouTube ad and it was kind of a cinematic trailer for Monster Hunter World, and at first I didn't know what it was, and then I saw like hunter gear, and then I saw the big bone sword, and I'm like, wait a sec, this is bringing back something. Like Peak, it was Peak, it was just running around, shit, hitting stuff. Oh my god. And then the ending of the cinematic trailer was just showing like him barbecuing the meat. Some of the monster fight music is just so good, and you can really feel the emotion it's trying to convey in the notes. I think two good examples of this are both Elder Dragons, Nergigante and Valhazak. Nergigante's music and combat just evokes psychoism, just Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers type shit. You have to be quicker and stronger, and the thing never lets up. I think this brief moment in the tune is very good to put in the beginning, and I think they did an amazing job at portraying what the fight is meant to feel like. Just listen.
The creature.
It's beautiful and an amazing choice that they chose to put this in the first maybe 5 seconds of the tune. It's erratic, it's all over the place, it goes up and down, and that's exactly what a fight with Nergigante is, especially when it's your first time fighting them. The musical notes are highly condensed, which creates this idea of tension in your mind, which makes you feel stress from the get-go, really hammering away that idea of impending doom. Valhazak, which is just, I mean, look at the it's just peak design, like a zombie elder dragon that's metal as hell. You just take a snapshot of that, put it on like a Metallica cover, you know what? That was just one point of Monster Hunter World that I thought they did very well. Iceborne expanded the slinger a little bit with the clutch claw. Can't win them all though. A majority of the mantles just become really obsolete once you get items such as temporal or rocksteady. The research base is also just useless after the campaign's over. It's just there for cosmetics and vibes if you want to go back to it. I don't like a majority of English dubs in Japanese games, but we got bangers like, you know.
Where's my Dragonator?
To be honest, I don't think Capcom even has a story department for any of their games. If I was playing Monster Hunter for the story, that means the combat would be way worse. Here's a little present. Here you go. It's pretty nice. The atmosphere, the graphics. How could a Monster Hunter game even look like this? I thought they were all just made for the 3DS. Now, graphics aren't everything, obviously, but Monster Hunter has never seen this type of fidelity and detail before. Monster Hunter Tri had beautiful cinematics, at least for its time in 2010, even as good as alongside the stupidly realistic-looking cutscenes God of War 2 had sometimes. So the graphics are only up from there, right? Monster Hunter 4. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is deemed one of the most expansive and possibly the best Monster Hunter games. So what platforms exactly do you need to get this amazing masterpiece of a game? 3DS and Switch. This is like choosing between an iPhone 4 and an iPhone 5. The game is realistic but also very fantasy based. So the world grounds fantasy monsters in almost like believable ecology and environments. The monsters have their own places where they eat shit and sleep, and it's usually never the same exact part of a map. Some monsters are given just enough backstory, maybe not enough, or just way too much, honestly. There's potentially a reason why some of the community connects with certain monsters more is because of their backstory, how they behave, and how fascinating it is. The weapon combat is so rapid fire, it's use it or lose it. It's almost playing small mini games with the combos and playstyles that you can do. The two sides to the monster hunting coin is usually being so satisfied that you killed a monster, and a majority of it just being like, fuck you, I hate you. Don't get me wrong, some monsters are very cool looking and they behave very nicely, but the way that they fight is just very tedious to deal with. Every cart is on you, and it's very self-blaming in a sense. Now, I know we've been joking a lot this video, but it's time to get serious and potentially even freaky or scary. Have you ever fought Kurapiko? I don't know how to pronounce that name. And then it summoned a Devil Joe, breaking both of Alatreon's horns in Monster Hunter Tri and still not getting the Sky Piercer drop. Tigrex in Freedom Unite, just the aura of this creature. This might be the scariest one I've ever listed and possibly will ever list, but online only locations and online only monsters. Older Monster Hunter games were notorious for this, only being able to defeat the most evil of Elder Dragons with an internet connection. Shutting down old online Monster Hunter hubs was a huge stab in the heart to longtime fans. Not only did the players feel betrayal, but they also were cut off from a lot of the game's content. Seeing footage of the Monster Hunter Tri people waving goodbye to you from that sandy city, and then eventually, poof, gone, reduced to ashes.